Hello, I'm John Horton, and this is BallerNews. I'm joined this week with number 5 skier in the IWSF World Standings List and a member of the University of Louisiana Monroe water ski team, Mr. Freddie Winter. Freddie, welcome to BallerNews.
Hey John, how you doing?
Doing quite well. Really happy to have you with me today.
I'm very happy to be here.
So, how are you enjoying Monroe? I know you're new to the Louisiana scene.
I'm definitely new. I'm having a really nice time. There's obviously a big ski team here and they've been very accommodating. I turned up. Obviously I've known a lot of the guys here, known them for a few years down the line for competitions, and yeah, I'm having a great time. Just moved into a new place after sleeping on someone's couch for 2 months, so I'm happy to finally get a good night's sleep in.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I spent 5 of the best years of my life getting 4 years worth of education there.
Yeah.
I think we won 2 national championships while I was there.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm hoping to add to the tally right now in the next couple of years.
All right, that's fantastic. Hey, so tell me about your winter. I know that you're on the good ski team. What else is going on with you? What else is interesting in Freddie Winter's world?
Well, I mean, actually, I guess the most interesting thing is getting back on the water for me. You know, very soon after the Worlds, like I had a very short winter. I was only in the UK for like a month and a half, and I ended up back over here. Really nice to be able to be in a wetsuit the whole winter, and yeah, been getting back on it. Going back on the bayou, which is, I think, as you know, it's not the easiest place to ski, but you know, I hope it's going to make me a stronger skier in the long term. And yeah, looking forward to the season.
Yeah, you don't jump, do you?
Oh no, I don't jump. You do not want to see me jump.
Because jumping on the bayou, those are the best years of my life. Hey, but let's move on a little bit, and I won't ask you about your love of Pabst Blue Ribbon. We've got 2 news items before we get on to the real meat of what we need to talk about tonight, which of course is Australian Open and Moomba Open. But 2 things have transpired in the last few weeks. One is the editor of Water Ski Magazine, Todd Rosselli, sustained a tibia plateau fracture a few weeks ago while snow skiing in Colorado at the WSIA event. And if you're not familiar with that injury, he's actually fractured the bone right at the top of the tibia. I think where the tibia and the femur and the kneecap come together. So we of course wish Todd the best. He's one of the best 34-mile-an-hour skiers in the world, and obviously the editor of the magazine. So that's a huge bummer.
Yeah, it is. I mean, Todd's a really good guy, and he's obviously so incredibly helpful for the sport, and you know, all the best to him.
Yeah, Todd's fantastic. Very, very entertaining. I asked him if he was enjoying his painkillers, and he said no, but he's learning to appreciate prunes. And if you've ever taken a lot of painkillers, you understand that joke, and if you haven't, you don't know what's funny about that.
I'm glad I'm on the end that is not understanding that. Hopefully that'll stay for a long time.
Well, if you take enough painkillers, you will learn to love prunes, or bran, or whatever. The other news item I have is kind of a correction, maybe an apology. During Moomba, there was a video that appeared on the front page of Ball of Spray that featured Joel Howley doing kind of like a public service announcement for anxiety and depression, and there was a misunderstanding about that. For the record, Joel is not crazy, is kind of my take on it. He acted as an actor for a student film about depression and anxiety, and a lot of people, including myself, mistook it for him coming out and saying that he was depressed and anxious. So if anybody thinks Joel's crazy, no, he's now just crazy about the fact that people think he's crazy. You're at a loss for words about that one, Freddie?
Yeah, I mean, I've met Joel. He's certainly a very nice chap, and I wouldn't have said he was crazy, so I'm glad that is now out in the open.
Yeah. Right. So, I mean, in essence, I mean, in truth, he's a little bit bummed out about it, but actually, hopefully, I think we're going to laugh about it soon. So, that brings us to the Australian Open, which I'm sure you're sorry you did not get to attend.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, there was a few things that stopped me going to Australia this year. You know, one of them being a bit new to a school and had some stuff to do here. So, I mean, I was absolutely gutted watching it from over here. But I mean, just motivates me for my season, and I'll certainly be there next year.
But so it was kind of an amazing 3 rounds of skiing. We're not going to talk about every skier there, and I want to apologize to all those guys that went and put in a big effort that we're not going to cover, but we only have so much time. So, but going on to that first round, Freddie, first of all, we come to Joel Howley knocks out a 1.5 at 41, which is it's a great score for anybody. It's a good score for Joel. And then Brian Detrick puts out a 2 at 41. And then Thomas DeGasperi puts out a 3 at 41. And then oddly, I think the interesting note here is Will Asher runs only 5 at 39. So at this point, that's not really a terribly unusual round, is it?
Well, you know what's interesting about that is people that maybe didn't have as good a season as like last year had a really good round, and then Will, who obviously had a good year last year and was skiing incredibly, didn't have a good round as he would have wanted. I know, going from Joel first, I know that he had a huge year, huge breakout year in 2012. I think he ran 2.5 at what you guys call 41, what I call 10.25. Towards the end of that season, he really massively rose up the world rankings and made a huge name for himself. Then I think last year, I don't think he had quite as good a season as he'd have liked. I mean, I haven't talked to him about it, but I heard from someone that he was a little bit disappointed. And then so, he's come through home tournament in his home country, and he's put a big score out there. And again, moving on to Brian Detrick. I know, talking to him last year, he was gutted he didn't go to Worlds. He just missed out on the qualifying, and he's clearly really taken that to heart. Pushed on and chomped at the bit, and he's improved again. I saw him last year at Diablo Shores, and he was there or thereabouts. Didn't quite make it into the finals, but there, 2 at 41, huge score again. And then obviously Thomas had his problems with his back and stuff last year. He's obviously hugely talented skier, and obviously you'd never bet against him, but maybe some people thought that he was on the way out after a season last year where it didn't quite come off for him. But again, big score, and I think that was his 3 at 41 was his best score of last year, so he just equalled that straight off the bat. Probably his first tournament of the year, so that's really big for him. Moving on to Will, he's not going to be so happy with that, and I don't know what's happened to him. I haven't talked to him, but he'll be gutted. But there you go.
Yeah. So that brings us on to round 2, and we've got some usual guys that are kind of lurking in the background. Settlemeyer runs 3:39, which I assume he's disappointed in. Carlo Elias, it seems like Carlo's always there. He runs 5 at 39. Oddly enough, Asher runs 5 at 39 for his second round in a row. Misses, I don't know the last time Asher missed 39 2 rounds in a row. I'm sure he has, but he runs 39 like I run my opener. And then DeGasperi runs 3 at 41 again. So after the second round, kind of noteworthy is DeGasperi is running mid 41 2 rounds in a row, and Asher, I mention this because I consider Asher to be one of the finest skiers in the history of the sport. So it's news when he doesn't run 39.
Absolutely, Will is, for me, obviously you've had Nate come along the last couple of years, but previous to that, for a long period, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, he was the best skier in the world. Absolutely was. He was incredible and untouchable for most of that time. To see Will miss 39 2 rounds in a row is unusual, and I wonder. We can only speculate as to why that was, and the only thing is he's only going to improve after that. I know Will. He's from my time with the British team and stuff. I know he's one of the most motivated skiers out there, and he will absolutely take it as motivation. He won't be down about it. He'll be motivated for the next tournament.
Oh yeah, you can't count him out. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, so that brings us to the third round, and this is where this tournament gets interesting. I think this tournament was actually quite unique. So in the third round, Settlemeyer kind of steps it up and runs 2 at 41. Nick Adams, amazing skier, runs 2 at 41. Asher misses 39 again. This is his third 39 missed in a row, and again, don't get me wrong. I'm not disrespecting Will. I consider him to be one of the greats. And when he skis bad 3 rounds in a row, you got to ask. So he runs 3 at 39, and then Joel Howley runs 2 at 41, clearly on fire. Detrick, California boy, runs 2 at 41, and so what that does is that creates a situation where we've got 2 guys tied at 2 at 41. Did I say that right? No, 3 guys tied for 2 at 41, and T-Gas left on the dock. So all Thomas had to do was go out and get, if he got to 2, there'd be a tie. If he got a piece of 3, he'd be in first place, I believe. And so, unfortunately for Thomas, because I mean, again, another fantastic skier, past world champion, he runs 1.5 at 41. So that sets us up for a 3-way runoff,
Yeah,
4-way runoff.
Wasn't it? Yeah.
Did I get that right? Right. Go ahead, Freddie.
Yeah, it's a 4-way runoff, and that means the score being on 41. That means that you've got to go out on the 39 pass, which that's the money pass in pro skiing, right? I mean, pretty much it is to make any final, to get on the podium. You absolutely need to run that 39 pass, but you'll generally have 2 or 3 passes in warm up for that. To take that off the dock, that is no mean feat, and trust me, people. Maybe they do train at that. I mean, I don't train a whole lot going out at 39. I've done it twice in tournament, and it's so difficult because where usually you'll have your 32 feet off pass, and then your 35, and then your 38 when you're just you're ramping it up, you're increasing your intensity. You've got to be on it from the start here, and I mean the last time I did it, which was at the Worlds, I pulled out from my gates and I just thought, oh my God, this is absolutely impossible. I remember it so well, the pull on the gate was so different to what I was used to on my first pass. You've got to be on it from the absolute start, and I think, I can't remember the exact results. I know Joel Howley ran it off the dock. I think, was there one other person?
No, just Joel. Joel ran 2 at 41, and then that brings us to.
I mean, like to run 2 at 41, which is I think half a buoy. I mean, I don't actually know what his personal best is. My thinking is it's 2.5. To run half a buoy off your PV while going out at 39, that's just insane. I mean, that really is impressive skiing, because again, you've had no warm up, and you might be able to scrap through a 39, but then 41's a different beast altogether. We know that it's so difficult to get down there, and to get a full 2 buoys, that's really good going.
All right, so that puts Joel pretty much in the catbird seat, and then Nick Adams came back out and ran 2.5 at 39. Detrick comes out and runs 4.5 at 39. And Settlemeyer runs 3.5 at 39, making Howley the 2014 Australian Open champion.
Yeah, and that's huge for him.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think he didn't have a year, maybe which he, although he still skied really well, like he had a year which he maybe wasn't as happy as he could have been with last year. And to start off 2014 with the first pro tournament of the year to get his first pro win, that's huge. And actually, if we look at the top 4 there, we had Joel Howley, we had Brian Detrick, Adam Settlemeyer in 3rd, and Nick Adams in 4th. And those guys, they're not the guys that you would probably, with Will Asher and with Thomas de Gasperi in the mix, you probably wouldn't have put all of them on the podium. Which is, the really good skiers, young skiers coming through and making some big scores and placing high, getting some elite points in the first tournament of the season. That's really good, and that's good for the sport. The last few years, Nate has skied absolutely incredibly. We've everyone's been incredibly impressed with that. But it's actually good, I think, for the sport to have a little bit more variety, to have new people coming through, winning the tournaments, and not just to have the sort of monotony like we sort of have in F1 a little bit at the moment. I don't know if you guys like the F1, but with Sebastian Vettel winning every single year.
And we're back. So there's 2 real stories here, for my money, with the Australian Open, and one is Will Asher Will Asher missing 3 rounds in a row. This surprised me so much that, I'm a conspiracy theorist, so I called on my spies, and I kind of said, hey, did something happen at this tournament? And considering the other scores, and from the feedback I got from a number of people, there is no story. Will, the reality is, I guess he's just not a skiing robot. But it kind of got me to ask some interesting questions, and I talked to a lot of people in the sport, and I called some people high up in the drivers groups and said, why don't I have access, or why don't all skiers, not just me, why don't all skiers have access to boat path video from especially elite events, but all our events? Because if for some reason Will's poor scores were because of driving, it's just kind of the thing that you look to, it seems like that should be transparent. And what I found out in my inquiries is that may soon actually happen. It's in the works. I don't know that there's a date on it, I don't know there's a commitment on it, but I'm not the only one that thinks it's a good idea that boat path video be made available. So so that came out of that, and I think that's a good thing. Freddie, do you have any feelings on that?
Yeah, you know, my gut reaction is almost that I wouldn't like that because, you know, I think as skiers we're all quite neurotic, right? We're all very sort of, you know, interested in the little things, and we don't want little things to mess us up. And I've got a feeling that for me, for my sanity, I really feel that if I was able to look at the boat path of all my passes for the year, and I'd start freaking out, like I really would, and I'd have drivers that I would honestly decide not to go to a tournament because I saw them, like, you know, pull me away from buoy 4 on 39 one time, or you know, it would be weird, and I'm not sure I'd like it. I've got to say. I mean, obviously the proof is in the pudding, but I don't know. I'd have to wait till it actually happened. But yeah, no, I'm not sure quite where I stand on that.
I think that's interesting feedback. I hadn't thought of that. I was, you know, I was thinking that if there's transparency, then the quality has to come up of the driving. And I'm not saying the driving was bad. And by the way, the fact that I'm asking this question, I sure hope no one from the Australian Open thinks this is an indictment in any way. I was curious, so I just kind of dug around a little bit, and it seems like, since there's elite points on the line, right? I mean, and elite points, especially for the European skiers, it really impacts income, and it impacts sponsorship. So wouldn't it, for me, as kind of trying to be a journalist, I just want to make sure that everything is beyond reproach.
I think you're right. I think pro tournaments, there's definitely something to be said for that, because pro tournaments are generally not in the parts of the world which are easily accessed to you. So, you know, if someone makes the commitment to travel all the way to Australia and then feels that they got screwed over by a bad boat path, that is not right. And a pro tournament, you know, a World Championships, a European Championships, a Pan Americans, all that sort of thing, that's gonna make a big difference. And I think I've heard drivers in the past sort of say that maybe in a head-to-head they want to win. You know, they want to win their head-to-head, but that's not where we're at in the sport. The sport should not be about winning. So for sure, if, you know, these drivers know that they've absolutely got to be on the money every time, and I mean, of course, they concentrate as much as they possibly can, but if they just have that little extra incentive, then that will make the sport a fairer place, and, you know, that's better for everyone. So that, you know, there's definitely something to be said about that.
And then my second point, I think you already covered this, but the young guys get it done. I mean, I could not be happier for Howley and Detrick. You know, these guys are essentially unknown on the international stage. But to be fair, I kind of looked over this carefully, and De Gasperi had the highest single score of the tournament with 341, ran that twice. And if you look at the average of his scores, he had by far the highest average. So I mean, I guess this is a case of the dice fell the way they fell. And so I don't know. I'm sure Thomas is fine with it. I mean, he's on fire right now, I think. But it's great to see these young guys that take the gold.
Absolutely, and, you know, Thomas will be gutted with that, knowing that he was the best skier throughout the tournament. But then he knows as well as anyone. I mean, he's the most experienced out of all those guys we've talked about, and he knows that you've got to get it done when it matters. And, you know, he won't be feeling bad about that. He's not going to be annoyed at those guys because they beat him in the final round. So, you know, he's all good with that.
Okay, so they finished up at the Australian Open, and then everybody kind of made it over to Melbourne, which I skied there a couple times when I was a teenager, and looking back, my scores weren't very impressive, but I've got to say personally that my experiences at Moomba are things that I will never forget. Freddie, have you skied Moomba?
I haven't yet, and that is a source of great regret for me. I'll be there next year for sure. The things haven't lined up quite yet, but I will be absolutely there next year.
It's a fantastic event. I mean, everybody's told you about the crowds and skiing in the middle of the city, but until you do it, you can't imagine it. I recommend to everybody out there watching this, if you get the opportunity to go ski or be a spectator, go to Melbourne, see Moomba, stay a week, watch the Formula One race, watch Ferrari win. Freddie, you're not a Hamilton fan, are you?
I'm not a what fan, sorry?
Hamilton.
Hamilton, no.
Okay, good. Just making sure. Okay. So kind of brushing through the early rounds. I thought Mapple looked great. He missed his gates at 38 on round 1, and lucky for him, he still got through into the second round.
It was quite lucky there. I think he was looking fantastic. I mean, he really was. I think they said he was 51 or 52 years old. What an athlete! I mean, that's just unbelievable to mix it up with the guys 20, even younger, 20, 30 years younger. And he was looking amazing. And then that the gate struck again. I think it was even down that far end, which we're so used to happening. So he just scraped it in at the end, and it would have been a shame for him to miss out on the semi-finals for sure.
So come second round, he falls around 2-ball at 38, which I think kind of sets a tone. That 2-ball coming from that end, which I believe is what they call the city end, and 5-ball coming from what they call the bridge end. It seemed like from what I saw on the webcast that a lot of skiers really suffered there. I think Andy looked great, got to that 2-ball in that direction, and just couldn't get through it. Really, also of big note in the early rounds is Nate ran 3 at 41 in the first round, which on the Yarra River is astounding. I mean, that's world record performance on the Yarra. And in the second round, he flat missed his gate at 39. I'm sorry, that's not true. He didn't miss his gate. I apologize.
No. He got 1.5, I believe.
Yeah, he got a bad gate. Got around 1 and fell at 2, is what I was trying to say there. And then thirdly, of the unfortunate top skiers that just kind of didn't make it through the finals, is John Travers, who missed his gate first round at 32 off. And I think at this tournament, it's not shocking, but it's always, well, it's got to be heartbreaking.
Oh, terrible! I mean,
right.
and he's such a talented skier, and he went all the way out there, and I actually think, looking at the results as a whole, this tournament, there were quite a few upsets. I think there always is at Moomba, but looking at it in the first round, we had Joel Howley straight out from his first pro win. I think he went inside of buoy 3 on 35 off, and that's gutting for him. Then you had John Travers, who I've got to say, the 2 passes he ran. I mean, I guess the second one you'd say he didn't run because he missed his gates. But his technique and his balance on the ski looked really, really good. Better than I've ever seen him ski before. Really, I think he looked awesome, and it was a real shame, I think, for the tournament that he ended up missing his gates there, because he would have definitely been in for a shout for at least the podium.
I agree. So that brings us to the
I thought that was really cool. That was really good sporting. Really sporting of them, to be picking up their fellow skiers, even though they didn't quite make the final. That was really good of them.
Yeah, it was fun. So again, it brings us to the finals, and I'm going to cover these in order of placement, not necessarily the order of how they went, just to make this simpler. So Parrish, I confess, I'm a Parrish fan. I tell everybody that they. Well, but I mean, when people talk about watching video and who they should try to ski like, even though maybe it's unreasonable for a guy that's 5'9" to try to ski like a guy that's 6'5", I still tell everybody to watch video of Parrish.
Well, he's got one of the best onside turns in the business. I mean, even though I'm a righty, I definitely try and emulate him. He looks so composed, so stable. You know, I really enjoy watching him ski as well.
All right. Oh well. So unfortunately, Chris was one of the guys that struggled with his gates. He missed his gates at 35 off. I understand that he missed them significantly. So, and I want to say that also, there was that I've heard, there's no real contested, nobody objected to the gate calls. A lot of people lost their gates at Moomba, but it's frankly because the water's moving around, and we're going to talk about that more in a minute. So that's Parrish in 8th. In 7th is Carlo Elias. Now, you know, Fred, I've only met Carlo once or twice, but he seems like he's always in the hunt. He seems like he's like one of those great skiers nobody outside of the inner circle has heard of.
He's a good buddy of mine, actually, Carlo. You know, we enjoy each other's company, and he's a really good skier. And like you say, he's always there. I mean, the amount of times he's made top 5 in pro tournaments is countless. He's always pretty much running his 39, and he's nearly always there. But maybe hasn't quite made it to the top quite yet. He probably will. I mean, almost undoubtedly, at some point he'll get it. He'll have his time. But you know, it was unfortunate for him. It just looked like the whole weekend on that one. I think he got a score of 1 at 38. The whole weekend, you can see.
Is correct,
yeah. And we were watching the boat come in, and the boat was bouncing. So that just shows how much wash there was, and so that, you know, I know for me, if there's wash when I'm pulling out from my gate, I get a little bit scared, a little bit cautious. And then that showed the trend for the whole weekend was everyone, when they were coming around their buoy 1 on their first pass and third pass, they were tailing it, and that just happened to Carlo just a little bit more than anyone else's, and then he couldn't quite make it round 2, you know, which was a shame. And you know, Carlo's a really good skier, and you know, it didn't quite happen for him this weekend.
So that put Carlo at 7th ahead of Parrish, and then in 6th is Nick Adams, who only ran 2.5 at 38. But, you know, he's got such a I mean, I'd love to see more of Nick skiing. You and I, Freddie, were texting back and forth on Facebook while we watched the event together, and you made some comments about Nick skiing that was kind of interesting. You were commenting on his gait. Can you expound on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I really liked his gait. It's very, very relaxed, and I hadn't noticed that before when I'd seen him ski. Like, I really enjoyed how he's turning very nice and slow, and he's not like you see some people, they really turn hard and go for it. I mean, I certainly on my gate, I try and be nice and slow and relaxed with it, and he's doing that certainly, I'd say, more than me, and I think it looked really good, and I'd really like to watch that again in a bit more detail.
So there's no question we're going to see more of Nick Adams in the future. So the next skier in the placement is Adam Settlemyer. He gets 4.5 at 38. He looked great, and then just kind of fell in. I think we saw quite a bit of this. He
looked awesome, and he skied really good the whole weekend. And I mean, from the first buoy, I had him down to run that pass, and that made me think that at the yard this year, it seemed that people were generally skiing good until they fell. Like, it wasn't a case of like having a bad start and then sort of maybe making it back. It was like people generally were doing, you know, skiing good, and then they'd make the mistake and it'd be the end. There was no sort of coming back, and that was the same with him. He was in perfect shape coming into 5, and I wasn't sure from the way he fell. He came forward, like if he'd clipped a buoy or he'd hit a roller and lost his balance. But I mean, for sure he looked great, and you know, it was a shame to see him miss that, given that he looked so strong. And you know, he had a bad injury last year, and he was definitely in the shout for a podium place.
I agree. All right, so then that brings us to Asher, who, wow, considering the conditions, those first couple of passes of Asher's, I don't think he could have skied it better. Again, I'm a fan, right? I mean, I'm a fanboy, I'm guilty, but I thought he looked insanely good. And then what I saw, and I'll tell you that I did kind of reach out to some people that were there, and what they saw was that he had a lot of rollers on his pull-out for his gate at 39, so he had a very awkward gate, and I believe he was really narrow into one, and just to kind of get around the ball, he had to kind of rise up, kind of a double pump, and then try to get around 1 at 39, and he just fell in. I just don't think there was any way to carry on there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a certified fan of Will. He's my fellow Brit. I've always, since I was very little, I've been watching him ski and pretty much trying to emulate him. So I was gutted to see him go down at that point. He was the guy I wanted to win. I'll be honest. Like, I really thought he was going to win. And yeah, we didn't get a replay, which is a bit of a shame. So you had to all catch it all in one moment. But he came across, and it almost looked like he blew the fin out. And that, I guess, that can happen when you're a bit narrow and you're trying to sort of snap that turnaround. But yeah, I mean, he will be gutted. But then, as I said earlier, it'll be fuel for the next big win, which will inevitably come. So I mean, he'll be disappointed, but he won't be despondent.
I'm sure the anger is just pushing him in the gym harder. He'll be fine.
Yeah, we saw him today on Facebook. Actually, he was doing his deadlifts or whatever those things are called. It doesn't look very fun to me, but he's certainly back in the mix.
Well, I'm jealous because I saw that when I was at work today, and I was thinking I'd love to be in the gym, not sitting at my butt in a desk for 10 hours a day. So after Asher, that brings us to Brian Detrick, the Brick. 2.5 at 39, and then he ends his ride with what I believe is his future trademark, is the flying Superman, binding eject, hang onto the handle, all the way back to the wakes, dismount.
Yeah, the first time I met Brian was at University World Championships 2011, I think, and he did a ridiculous crash there. I mean, it was insane. So this guy, he really is one of the strongest skiers out there. He must have some serious gym conditioning or something. My God, he can hang on to stuff. The picture I saw today on Facebook, I saw the crash live, but it didn't look quite as spectacular as this picture I saw. He was literally, it looked like he was sort of, like you say, Superman, just parallel to the water, skis sort of 5 meters away from him, and it was a big old crash, and I imagine it probably really hurt. So the guy's just strong. But what we can say about him is that he will no longer have, his signature will be the crash. He is a seriously good skier. He looks so strong. Like I said earlier, he's moved on from probably being a bit gutted not making worlds to just pushing himself, perfecting his technique. He seemed to be the guy maybe last year that he'd look good and then suddenly he'd just be in the water. The last two tournaments we've seen that he's not that guy anymore. He's now pushing on. He's looking seriously smooth. He's doing really, really well, and he looks a far better skier now than he even was, when I last saw him in September last year. He looks like he's really improved by, a good 10-15%, and that's fantastic for him.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I don't see Brian ski that often. We're both in California, but we live 5-6 hours apart. But there's no question that webcast video is the best I've ever seen him ski.
Absolutely, for sure.
So moving on to Aaron Larkin. What do you say about Larkin? His style is his style. If there's anybody that's just grit and slalom, kind of again, I'm a fanboy of a lot of these guys. Larkin skiing is amazing. His one ball at 38. Do you remember that, Freddie?
I just couldn't believe. I could not believe he ran that past after. His whole body was in the bloody water. It was insane. But we know that's how Aaron skis. He does do that. He's got his ridiculous 1-3-5, and then he'll sort of do some weird sort of half turn at 2 and 4 and make it over to the next buoy and then slam it down. It's amazing to watch. We're talking before about Brian being the strongest guy. I would love to see an arm wrestle between Brian Detrick and Aaron Larkin. And actually, I'd probably say Larkin might just have it because those turns are unreal. That's what he does. They're one of the most interesting things to watch in water skiing. Actually, I saw talking about his onside turn. I saw a promotional video for the I think it was Mastercraft Pro Star last year where he's got this super slow motion slam dunk turn. I think that's one of the coolest shots I've ever seen in a water ski video.
So I do want to back up and say that that one ball was not probably what Aaron was looking for. I mean, he got out of it, but I actually thought the rest of the pass was quite smooth. I think that I don't know how old Aaron is, but I believe that he is skiing better. I mean, we know that he upped his PB last year, his personal PB, and I think he's skiing better last year, this year, than I think I've seen in years past. So I don't think we've seen the last of Aaron Larkin.
We should be laughing at him, you say? No, of course not.
No.
He's seriously, he's good on that river as well. He's a two-time champion. I think he won 2010, 2011. So I mean, he was definitely in the mix. No.
After Larkin, we have DeGasperi, and I think as we've kind of mentioned before, I think he looks different. I think he looks more centered and more stacked, kind of more conventional style. I think DeGasperi's always gotten it done, and I say get it done. He's two-time world champion, I believe. But he's always kind of had kind of a different body position than a lot of skiers, and a lot of people kind of don't understand. And I've heard a lot of people say that he's really doing the same things. He's just getting there in a different way. Well, I thought in the Moomba video he really looked more conventional, and he looked stronger and maybe smoother. What's your take on that?
Well, we know that last year he had some problems with his back, so maybe he's found a way to ski which is helping his back, which is he's allowed to not get injured in that way. So maybe that's why we've seen him ski a little bit different. I've got to say I didn't notice a huge difference, but he still had his sort of he's very over the front of his ski in the turns, especially his 135, and that's something which, like you say, people do sort of struggle to say. Well, maybe how does he do that? And I know for me, I can't ski the way he does, but that's what's interesting about the sport is we're all going for the same goal, getting the most points, but we're all doing it slightly different ways, and he certainly does it a little bit different to everyone else. But obviously he skied fantastically this weekend. After having such a good start in the Aussie Open, running 3 or 41 a couple of times, then he ran 39 the first two rounds, the preliminary and then the semi. I think he scored one or two boys in the semi-finals after missing his gates in the first round, but I mean, he was on the money, and he was last skier out, and for sure he was going to be definitely right there. It was a shame though. I mean, I think Parrish went out just before him, and he ran his first two passes, and then we saw Thomas ski straight after Parrish's second pass, and we didn't know that he missed his gates. That was a shame for the tournament, I think, and everyone was a bit confused. But Thomas did fantastically.
For sure. So I buried the lead. I apologize to the viewers. So what I didn't say just a minute ago is when Thomas went off the dock, he knew he needed better than 2.5 at 39 to win the event, and he ran 3 and pulled the Iron Fist. And so congratulations to Thomas, which left the third round tie between Aaron Larkin and Brian Detrick. And I'm not exactly sure how they decided the final placement, but it ended up being DeGasperi first, Larkin second, Detrick third, and even in third place, I'm sure Brian's feet still haven't gotten back down the ground. I'm sure he's so excited, and frankly, I'm excited for him.
Yeah, exactly. It was good to see him get on the podium again.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of talk about gates at Moomba. I did a quick count, and I believe this is correct, that over 3 rounds of men's skiing and 3 rounds of women's skiing, 6 men and 5 women at some point in the event had missed their gates. I don't even want to say had their gates taken, because I really think it's definitive that people were literally missing their gates. So Toby is actually on the tournament committee there at Moomba, sent me a note, and he says that all the balls are on a single string around 4 feet long down to the crosswire. And so, well, here, I'll read the whole thing. Adding bungee and thickness to the buoy line has been found to increase debris catching on the lines and drag more in the current. With very little elasticity, the buoys tend to move sideways instead of up and down. So what I get from that is, with the rollers and with the boat wakes, instead of the buoys bobbing vertically, they're wobbling side to side, which just kind of makes this event even more challenging.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, as a skier, you don't want to be coming towards the gates and seeing the buoys moving from side to side, because we're trying to hit them as close to the right buoy as you possibly can without missing it. And if that's going to move by even 3 inches, that can make the difference, between you winning the tournament or going home in the first round. I mean, that really is, as much as it is, that 3-inch movement is so critical, and that's tough to see them moving from side to side.
So Freddie, you've got a personal best score of 5 at 41, right?
Yeah.
So as an elite skier, until we get to 41 off, is it really important to be that close to the right hand gate ball? Is a foot or two to the left really going to hurt you at one ball?
You know, I had a conversation with a few of my fellow pro skiers last year about this, and I mean, there was different people said different things. Some of the guys were saying, no, for their first 2 or 3 passes, they will go through the middle, and because they don't want to miss their gates and do something stupid. But I know for me, I need to go do the same gate every time. Of course, the intensity is going to be different, but my movement and my timing, I've got to try and do it exactly the same, because otherwise it's going to mess me up further down the line. You know, so that's why you do see people. I know Nate last year at Moomba, he missed his gates on the 35 off pass, and you know, people would say, well, why don't you just go through the middle of them? It's not a hard pass. But actually, it's all about timing. For me, definitely, if you're going to really go and try and push yourself all the way down, try and get the best score possible, you need to be doing the same gate turn, because it's all about muscle memory. It's all about, you know, getting that technique right. And yeah, no, for sure, I'm definitely in the group of people that always wants to go as close to that right hand gate ball as you can.
That's insightful. My gates are completely random, which may have something to do with, that may explain my slalom score. And then, you know, there's also a lot of question about, are you a believer that judging gates is part of the sport? Do you think that it's fair and proper and the right thing to do that we continue to require that skiers go between the gates?
Absolutely, I couldn't be more in the camp of we need gates. It's just a requirement. We can't just change it to, like, you know, like I think Marcus said before on your last video. Like, otherwise, why do we have to go around all the boys? It's gonna go down to that. If we start knocking off going through the gates, then we'll have to be knocking off other things. You've got to go through the gates. Like, the only thing I could say is that at special tournaments such as Moomba, right, where, I mean, the course record on the Yarra River is 3 at 41, right? That's 5.5 boys off Nate's world record. There's not going to be any records set there. So it's a pro tournament. It's pretty much just for elite points and it's for cash, right? Maybe change the rules slightly for there. That's not going to hurt anything, because the world records still stand. No one's going to touch them. So maybe you could slightly change the rules for there. And I like the solution with, if you miss the gates on, say, your first pass or second pass, but then you're given a second chance and you run the next pass with gates, then that's fine. And you're given the pass. So that works for me. I don't think that there's really a need to change the gates in the rest of the sport, but I think special tournaments where it's a pro tournament and it's very difficult conditions, as we know it is at the Yarra, I think that's a good solution.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I don't know how I feel about it. Rossi threw a note on my forum, and he says he commented that the water feels rolly when the skiers are pulling out, gliding for their gates. But he also says that, you know, he says about himself, I've missed a fair share of gates in my career, so I can relate to how disappointing it is to miss. It's also an important component of our sport and adds to the excitement and so-called drama. While skiers with the best potential may not make it through every round, every event, the best skiers, the best of those individuals rounds go through. So I guess what he's saying is, you know, it's a challenge, and sport is a challenge, and if you miss your gates, you're done. And I'm with Chris on that.
Yeah, I mean, the gate it's so traditional. I mean, it's such a fundamental part of the sport. I don't see how you can change it now. If we change the gate now, you would have to rewrite every single world record, every single record. It would all have to be scrapped and start from scratch, which isn't good for me. I think, you know, we've got a good history in the sport over the last 50 or so years. There's no need to scrap all of that just for the sake of making it easier for people who can't be able to go through their gates. That's what I think. I think, you know, you go through your gates or go home, because I mean, it's not. It really isn't an option to take them out.
I agree. All right, so unfortunately we don't have time to cover the other events, but I'd like to say that the first place winners in the other events are McClintock, Lang, Carroll, Kruger, and Bryant. If you've been around the sport very long, you know what events they won. If you're not sure who they are, the link to the results is here. It was below the video. And in closing, I want to say that in the past, a lot of folks have been critical, including myself, of this event in particular because of rumors coming back from Australia to North America about inconsistencies in judging, driving, officiating. And none of these are necessarily fact, it's rumor. But this year, there's been nothing but glowing reviews. There's been no controversy.
Nothing that you and I have heard, John, yet.
I'm sorry, Freddie, say that again?
Nothing that you and I have heard yet. I'm sure there was something going on.
Well,
no, I'm kidding.
Yeah, but I mean, and it's even interesting what I heard was that, some people were upset about missing their gates, but I don't think anybody complained about that they made their gates and didn't get them. And there was a controversy a number of years ago where everybody on shore firmly believed a skier went around a buoy that would have gotten that skier into the next round, and the judges stonewalled and didn't give it to them. And there may be another side to that story. Something here I want to do with BallerNews, though, is kind of expose that and not to kind of just call people out for the drama, but I want to report the news, and if there is poor judging or if there is bias, I want to expose that. And if people are doing a good job and being blamed for it, I want to show that they are doing a good job. So I just want to say that I was very pleased that we haven't heard anything negative about Moomba this year, and I don't expect to. And I hope that continues for many years to come.
It's absolutely a good thing to see, people come away from the tournament and all happy that the judging's been good, because, these guys, they all give up their time and stuff, and they all do their best, but sometimes people get annoyed about certain things. But it's good when everyone's happy at the end of the tournament.
All right, well, that brings us to the end of our show, and I really want to thank University of Louisiana Monroe, ski team member, more importantly than, whatever, 5th in the world and skis for Dave Good, but University of Monroe skier Freddie Winter for joining me here, and thank you folks for watching. Thank you, Freddie.
Thank you, John. Pleasure.
Yeah, hey, Freddie, hang on just a minute. My three-legged cat is screaming at me.
Okay, no problem.
Just a moment. Here we go. Let me just grab Cleo. And for the people on the webcast, if I leave this, there's Cleo. 3 legs, no tail, 1 tooth. Deaf as a stone. Oh. Alright. Tossed her outside. That'll make a neat edit, I'm sure. Alright, so let's get through where until we do another record break. We'll get through like, I don't know how far we're going to get, but we need to remember to take a break so the files aren't too big.
Okay, you want to take a break now or no?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that, yeah. Yeah, by the way,